I was first introduced to the Reuben years ago. I had just opened a cafe and I employed a young chef fresh out of his apprenticeship at the Hilton Hotel. And he suggested we put this on the menu. And it is one of the most delicious sandwiches I've ever eaten. And it quickly became a customer favourite, and I've taken it to other places I've worked, and it is unanimous. Everyone loves it. That young chef later on became my son-in-law, and he has been for the past decade, and this is how I make the Reuben. I'm using a 1.5 kilo piece of corned beef today, but you can use any size piece. I rinse the corned beef under cold water and then I place it into my largest pot. The veggies that will be going into the stock with the corned beef are a medium onion peeled and cut into half, a large carrot roughly cut into big pieces, and the end piece of a celery bunch. I also bruise a few cloves of garlic and set aside a few bay leaves. I place these veggies into the pot with the bay leaves and garlic, 1 tablespoon of brown sugar, then I add 1/2 cup of white vinegar, which will help to tenderize this tough cut of meat. And lastly, I pour enough cold water into the pot to generously cover the meat and vegetables. I place the pot on the stove, bring it to a boil, then reduce the heat to a gentle rolling simmer. I put a lid on the pot and set my timer. I follow a simple cooking time calculation of 40 minutes per every 500 grams of corned beef. Whilst the corned beef is simmering away, I prepare the Russian dressing. This dressing isn't actually Russian. It originates from New Hampshire in the US. I need 3 tablespoons of finely minced red onion, which equates to about 1/2 medium red onion. I like to mince then measure, which ensures the balance of flavours is spot on every time. I mince 5 sweet and sour gherkins because I'll be needing 4 tablespoons of minced gherkin. And the last ingredient I mince finely is some fresh parsley, and I'll be using 2 tablespoons of minced parsley for this recipe. Into a large bowl I place 1.5 cups of mayonnaise, which is actually 300 ml, so a 300 ml jar of your favourite mayonnaise, and then I add 3/4 a cup of sweet chilli sauce, just your regular sweet chilli. Next goes in 4 tablespoons of sour cream, then the 3 tablespoons of minced onion, 4 tablespoons of minced gherkin, and 2 tablespoons of minced parsley, followed by 1 teaspoon of horseradish, 1 teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce, and 1 teaspoon of lemon juice. I give it a thorough mix and then pop it into a container and place it in the fridge to allow the flavours to develop. It will last up to 2 weeks in the refrigerator. After the corned beef has been simmering for 2 hours, I insert a knife into it and I can feel some resistance, and that's normal. I turn off the heat and then I wait, and what has always worked for me is I allow it to cool for at least a couple of hours in the cooking liquid, and this results in a moist and tender piece of meat. So the corned beef has been cooling down in the liquid now for a couple of hours, and I have to cut it against the grain, which will result in a much more tender piece of corned beef. No, that's with the grain, as you can see. So that's sliced with the grain because all the tendons of meat are very visible. That's better. That's against the grain. And if you leave it to go cold in the fridge, you can really slice it thin. But I like this sandwich either way, thin or thick slices. It really doesn't matter. And it's just so delicious when it's super fresh like this. Now that's plenty for Mike and I. Sorry, I had to try a bit. It's so tender. It's beautiful. Now, sauerkraut is a big component of this sandwich, and you might be thinking, oh no, sauerkraut, but trust me, it just works. And I'm just going to drain a bit of sauerkraut, enough for, say, 3 sandwiches, because Mike will probably eat 2 of these. And you just want to get as much liquid out as possible, and I'll put the drained sauerkraut in the bowl. Now, Reuben sandwiches are traditionally made with rye bread, and that's how I started doing them. And then I realised that sourdough or a lovely crusty loaf of bread is just as delicious or even more delicious, and they look super impressive. I make these sandwiches fairly big. So the traditional cheese to use for Reuben's is Swiss cheese or Swiss style cheese, and that's what I've got today. But to be honest, when I was making them in the restaurant, we just used cheddar cheese and it was just as delicious. On goes the Russian dressing, and be generous with it. It really makes this sandwich taste amazing. And then I'll lay some corned beef on one half of the sandwich. If your corned beef is thin, I used to do layers, but this is just out of the pot, super fresh and super tender. Then on goes some sauerkraut. And then lastly, 2 slices of cheese. I might tuck the cheese in a little bit so it doesn't all melt away, because what I'm going to do now is toast them. So I'll spread one side, put it on the toaster, and then spread the other side. And I'll carefully put the buttered side down and put a little bit of butter on the top. And I'm going to toast that until it's lovely and golden brown. You can also fry them in a frying pan. That's what we want. Beautiful golden toasted. This is the Reuben that was on the sandwich press. And I like to cut them on the diagonal. Does that look good to you? And how I like to serve them is with a couple of gherkins on the side and just a little bit more of that Russian dressing, just in case they want a bit more. And that is a delicious Reuben. Do you enjoy that?
Very much. Very much.
You even ate all the dressing. So there's Russian dressing, Swiss cheese, German sauerkraut, English corned beef. So that's like world peace in a sandwich, isn't it? Don't you think?
Yeah.
Just eat it.